Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Jim Greer, who is a producer, songwriter, and a musician. Jim, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us. And for our listeners who might not be familiar with you, if you don't mind, just give us a small introduction before we dive into it and have a lot of fun today.
Right on. Thank you, Bob.
My pleasure.
My name is Jim Greer. I am a musician, producer, songwriter in the Bay Area, and I've been an independent artist producer for almost my entire life. Making a living doing it for about 20 some years now, kind of by way of creating a, a, a brand of my own skills um, and networking a lot and working hard and every single day, like staying with the grind. And I've worked with like all kinds of big artists from like Macy Gray and Galactic and Foster the People and Geographer and so many more, to like lots and lots of small local to me and local in other places artists. And I have a very inclusive philosophy about music, and I believe that writing and recording music is a super fulfilling and healthy thing to do. And I think everybody that is interested should get a chance to do it. And and I think that it's just a really important part of our society, and something it's like kids should do. And and I think it's so much more interesting than the kind of way that capitalism has presented it to us. Um, so that's part of my philosophy too, is that we have to kind of do it on our own without being engaged with the entire music industry hierarchy. I think that's also really important. So maybe that's a good enough introduction for now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you said something really interesting. It's very healthy, and it's something really good, and artists should always should not walk away from it. Just rely on press of a button. I mean, technology always dictate our life, our direction of life, and what do we do. And technology is important for advancement. Would you say sometime it could be? I wouldn't say a curse, but a destruction for creativity.
Yeah, I, I kind of have a resolute kind of like hard belief that the art is you. So the technology, and a lot of engineers and producers will say this, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I've read every book and every interview that ever has been written. Um, you know, technology is just a tool to use to make your thing that you want to make. And like, I while I very much believe that, I kind of think, okay, if you can't sit down, if you were on a desert island and all you had was a guitar with two strings and a little tape recorder and a lot of batteries, um, you ought to be able to write all the songs you could possibly ever write, even if you were sitting in a fancy studio in Paris with everything, you know. And I would be the first one to say the guy on the desert island with the guitar with two strings and the tape recorder is probably going to write way better music than somebody who can sit in a studio and have everything. And that's all you should ever need is the bare minimum. Um, and then you go outward from there. So you get your idea, your feeling that you're creating with this music, and then you pick and choose the technology that is around you to to bring it to life. And um and and I think that, like, yeah, so that's one of my ethics about the creation of music, is you should be able to do it with absolutely nothing. On the flip side of that, if you are a person who has lots of stuff around and lots of drum machines and synthesizers, and now that we can make any sound we can think of with by pulling it off the internet, or whatever, if the thing that you're trying to do is a culmination of using all of that, then that's also totally valid. So if I walk into my studio and I say, today I'm going to make a track that I'm inspired to make a song with, you know, Motown drums out of my Motown drums library, and then it's going to have trombones from my trombone library, and then it's going to have I'm going to play synthesizers, and I'm going to use everything. I'm going to do it all in Ableton where everything is preset, and I'm going to drag and drop all of my drum beats from Ableton, blocks, and go blink, blink,
Yes.
blink, blink, and hit play. And because if what I want that day is to create this huge thing that is a collection of all this stuff where I don't have to even play an instrument, well then that's me using those tools to get what I want, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't find I can't deny that that's an equally powerful art form, and so I kind of am on I'm kind of on both sides. And what as a producer, what I've learned over the hundreds and hundreds of people I've produced, essentially, is that every single artist has their own like weird path that they're on in their brain, and that it's my job to not judge anything they want or any decisions they're making. In their mind, they're walking through a jungle and they're like, ooh, an apple, and they want to grab the apple, and they're like, ooh, a tiger, I'm going to capture the tiger, or ooh, a snake, I'm going to run away from the snake, or ooh, there's a 10-course dinner on a beautiful table with candles sitting here in the middle of the jungle, I want to sit down and enjoy it. And it's my job to, like, and some people want to walk through the jungle naked and afraid and vulnerable, and some people want to wear armor and have machine guns, and my job is just to get them through and have them enjoy the experience, and so that at the end, when we're listening to the music they've made, they love it. Like, and once they love it, my job is done. Like, even if I don't love it, as long as they love it, then I have fulfilled my role as sort of like the guy with the leader of the posse, and I don't think that any of the details really make any difference as long as they love it, and that you know and so now when I work with artists, the only question I'm ever asking about almost everything is, I'm like, is this cool, do you like this, I have an idea, do you like it, you know and when they go, I don't know, then I go, let's find a new idea, let's not even dwell on it. I don't want to sit and do computer stuff for 20 minutes and have you go, meh. I want to. I only want them to be stoked at all times. So that's my ethic, and that's how I sort of view technology. It's a tool, but you are the art, and you got to use it to express yourself. And I say it's, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes is fair game. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I went to some of the generative AI platforms, and I played around with some of them instrumentals and songs, and I was pretty much blown away, honestly. But then, as I played more with it, I start to realize uh, it's not a limited creativity level, but it hits a certain plateau with it.
right.
And I'm like, at first when I heard it, I was like, okay, this is scary. That's it. This is gonna destroy the music business. We're done within a year or so. We're done. Then the more I played with it, then the more I realized, I'm like, not really, this is music you create to listen to, as far as not without a soul, like just some music, you know and nothing where a certain song touches you emotionally, and whether it makes you happy or brings back memories or motivate you to work out, or something makes you feel like you want to dance or puts you in a great mood. And not just based on being familiar with certain things. Familiarity always an important thing in marketing and everything. That's why sometimes they put certain songs to connect to the consumer with the emotions and the familiar. If you follow what I'm saying, brings back certain things. Yeah, when you want to sell a product. And I said, no, it's not going to do anything. I said, it's not. I said, it might help. If it helps certain producers to be more creative, why not? Because obviously the music business is all about creativity. It's all about new sounds, and new ways of creating and listening. And I've been in the music for 30 years. And I used to have a studio many years ago in New York. And, the old studio. And I know how technology was changing rapidly every 3 to 6 months. I used to go to, what is it, Sam? I forgot the name of the store. Something Sam. You know what I'm talking.
Sam,
Huh? No, no, no. Sam something.
Sam's drum. There was like a drum store.
Some guitar or get something
Yeah.
like this. I used to always every 3 months, 6 months, I got to go buy a new module, new this, new sampler, new sounds coming up, and libraries of sound. But it's fine. I'm not against it. Sure. I mean, there's all type of music that done with live bands and drums and all of that, and music done through the machines, which is okay. And if AI gonna help, great, let it help. But replacement, everybody came out with that trend about last year, and it's like that's it. It's not, it's going to take replace artists, going to take over artists. No, it's not. It is definitely not. Because AI is taking their knowledge from where? Trained from previous songs, obviously. So it's not creating new songs, meaning a new sound, a new type of sound. Like it will never come up with hip hop based on culture, based on many things, history and all of that. The Motown sound, jazz, blues, country music, all of these genres, it based on certain cultures and where you grew up, where you were born. So it reflects a lot of things that AI is not going to be able to create that on its own. Even if you train it, it's gonna do what it was trained to do. So is it scary? No. Is it gonna eliminate certain businesses, certain sounds, background music, certain commercial background music, certain music that played in certain stores, like they say elevator music or in lobbies? Yeah, it would. It could absolutely, yes, yes, which is fine. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but yes, it's going to take job a lot of the studio producers who been doing this for years, and build the reputation or library and made the living out of it. But I guess it's like in the music business when it shifted from physical to digital. What happened to all the warehouses, the trucks, the manufacturing, the printing companies? They're gone. It replaced with different kind of, business, kind of retail outlet, which is called the digital. They employed more people even.
Yeah.
Digital companies, whether it's Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Deezer, all of that. Title. So I guess with technology, as they always say, there's new jobs come in, new opportunities, new entrepreneurs. But now to be in the music business, you have to be extremely technically inclined. You have to be. You have to be so knowledgeable to be in the business itself. And it's easy to get in, but it's really hard to make it in the business now. Like, what's your strategy? What are you bringing into the business? What's new? How can you scale it? How can you help artists, empower artists. There's always the basic things, but what's next? And artists right now independent artists have a hard time to make money. It's like, how can we get creative? Okay, we got a YouTube channel. Okay, our music is self-distributed by one of these, do-it-yourself platforms, and
Yep.
so what's next? That's not enough. How can would that get me more touring, more this? And I got to battle with AI music, somebody's copying. So what do you think is, these are the struggles that I see for me being in business for a long time and interviewing a lot of people and try to be creative myself and coming up with ideas. There's so many struggles right now, even for entrepreneurs. If you don't have some kind of jaw dropping technology coming into the music business, you're not gonna. It's just like you got no game.
Yeah. It's I'm in an interesting position because I have a wide range of clients, I guess I would call them. So I'm working with a band of three young brothers who are like 14 years old, who are super talented, and they get up on stage and they play like 30 songs, all classic rock, like Journey and like Michael McDonald, and really tricky. They have a great keyboard player, and there's nice kids, really talented, and they found me, and I'm helping them write their own music and make some songs. And my point being, they are at the age where they're starting now. So for them, and their dad is kind of in charge of them at the moment, and the dad is really nice, and the dad is learning, and I'm trying to explain to him, like, I'm like, well, I'd like to explain to you how things are versus how things used to be, but number one, I think I'm wasting my breath. Let's just start with how things are now. Why bother telling you about the 90s and the 2010s and the what's the point? Who cares? It's gone, and also, and it's funny because I see him learning about, he looks at the distribution people, and he's like, oh, so they just put it out on all the platforms, and I'm like, yes, and he's like, cool, and what do they pay? And I'm like, practically nothing, and he's like, so how do we make money? And I'm like, you don't, I'm like, you don't make money until these guys become a brand of their own, and they can sell T-shirts and sell performances and sell stuff that is either a performance or a T-shirt or some merch item, and the music is just really a commercial for the brand that is them. And 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 it takes a long, and if you're from the more old school, that's harder to learn than you would
To
think.
fathom, yes, it's really
it,
hard to fathom. Yeah.
it's a weird thing to have to comprehend. Now luckily they're so new that they've just grown up with that stuff, and so they kind of understand. They kind of are like, okay, that makes sense. And I get my point being, I have like them to talk to, and then I have artists who are like 25, who are 10 years older than these 14-year-olds, but still very young, and they are in their own, a 25-year-old making really cool, interesting music right now. It's like, who has to have a job. They have to have a job. They can't just all sit around all day and do nothing. They have to
Hmm.
work. um, you know, and so many of them, their music is really good. It's good music. It's quality music. But how do they make it into a brand without, and also have a happy life? Is like, to some of them, I'm like, I don't even think it's worth doing. I wouldn't bother. Just make your music, live your life, make money so you can do fun things while the world is still around. Like, go on the little vacations, like take hikes and go to Hawaii, and travel and do fun things, because the daily grind you're going to have to do to turn this music thing into your actual profession is not that fun, and it's a total dice roll. So do you want to spend 3 hours a day on the internet in hopes of blowing up on TikTok? Is that or what about spending 3 hours a day making amazing music, and screw the chances and screw TikTok and forget it? Just just let the chips fall where they may and enjoy yourself is
You,
the advice I give quite a lot. You know,
it's funny what you just said. So the music pretty much basically becoming the vehicle really is no longer the main source of income anymore, unless you're performing live, which you have to be really, really at a certain level.
and
Uh,
busy and all
yes.
the time performing. You have to be
So
like a road band.
yes. So
Road.
the music for independent artists become the vehicle, is a business card, is no longer the main source of income for them. So it's what do you do? Where can you get it in order for you to start to make money out of other things, whether it's sponsorships, commercials, acting, many things, branding, which takes a lot. Would that mean that's going to, a lot of independent artists will give up because they need a lot of money behind them to push them? It's like, I cannot do this on my salary, on my so and so. Like, what should I do? Just walk away from it? Would that discourage a lot of the upcoming talent?
I think it can. I mean, and I mean, I mean, it's tough, Bob. It's really tough. I feel bad for people like 30 and under who are super talented, who, I mean, I don't want to ramble too long, but I discovered a guy recently. I have a band and we played a show, and I saw this performer, and he was like, blew my mind. He was like David Bowie and Freddie Mercury, like wrapped up into one. I mean, those are big names, but he was very total star, put on this amazing performance, and they had great songs. And I saw him a couple months later at a party, and I was like, "Hey, did you make a record of all that music I saw?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he sent me his record, and it's like this amazing album, and it's like, it's so good. It's got like 4 hits that would be hits if somebody could. And I know the difference between a hit and not a hit. Like, really, really good and really well recorded, and like, and it turns out I know the guys that made the album. I know them all. They're all friends of mine. And I called him up, and I was like, "You made this record, dude. You did a great job." And he was like, "Yeah." But this artist, and he has a little bit of a reputation, but how's he gonna, and I offered to put a record out, by the way, on my label. I was like, can I put your record out? Like, and here's the problem. I can't put a lot of money into it. It doesn't make any sense to put, I could put a little bit. I could put, let's say, $1,000 in like Instagram boosts and like marketing money or something, some small amount of money, which is very small. But even if I could put 20,000 or 50, it wouldn't necessarily matter. It might just be, I might just be, it's, I call the music business now a big casino, and you need to decide what table you want to play at.
Wow.
And I say the best way to do Vegas is to play at the quarter slots or the quarter poker. Play blackjack all day long, where you're not going to lose more than $30 all day long. If you go over to the stakes table, you're gonna lose. Like, it's designed to make you lose, except for every once in a while somebody wins, and it's like getting struck by lightning. And my point is, like, I literally don't know what else to do but say to this guy and lots of artists that I know, look, you are talented, you are worthy. The music business sucks. It is oppressive. It is bad. You gotta just do it for the love of it. And I always say, like, when I'm working with this guy and he's like let's and I'm like, send me the photos you want to use for your content, and he's like, which one do I use, this one or this one? And I'm like literally only do things where you love it, because that might be all you get out of the process of making, releasing, and promoting and marketing an album. After a year, I want you to look back and go, whatever happened, I enjoyed. I loved every second. I loved every post. I never hated doing it. I loved making some stupid TikToks to try some TikToks. I loved making my tracks. I loved making my videos. I did it for cheap, and I had fun, like a kindergartner at preschool who gets to play with all the toys in the room. And I say, because and I'm like, if you love it, you won't regret it. If
Yes.
if you hate it, if you hate doing all that stuff, and it's a year later, you'll be like, I hate this. This sucks, and that's no fun. Like, the only reward these days seems to be mostly the enjoyment of doing it, and then you kind of just have to hope that. Also, I still have faith in humanity, so I'm inspired when I see, like, I'm sure you've seen, like, Chapel Roan. There's videos of her 5 years ago playing her now big hit, and she's playing it in some park on her Nord piano, just like everybody else has ever done. We've all sat in this park where nobody's paying attention and been like, I'm playing my song. And I don't know anything about her, but she persevered, and she didn't give up, and she kept doing it, every week or every month. And she probably had times where she went, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. And somebody must have been like, no, no, you're talented. Keep going. And so now I look at my job as mostly, if I'm not working in the studio with people, which I obviously try to do as much as I can, is just to be a cheerleader and tell people that they're talented. And so I'm Mr. Like, I'm on the internet. I'm like, I love your music. And if I see somebody in a club and I like it, I go up and I tell them. And I try to, like, and anywhere that I can, I'm signing artists left and right where there's no money, but I record their record for free, in my studio, or I'm like, buy me lunch and I'll record your record. By the way, here's where technology helps, because I am a really, really fast. I got really good at Pro Tools, and I'm really good at all of this digital crap. And I'm also a good musician. Like, I'm confident enough. I'm a good keyboard, bass, guitar, drums, whatever. So I'll make people's album in a day or less. Like, not a whole album, but like, I can record a lot. I can do it very quickly. And I mix, I'm sure you do the same. You mix as you go. I'm making decisions on the fly that I know are 5 steps ahead. I don't record bass for 3 hours. I figure out the bass part and I go boop, 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 and I get it done. And it's done in 20 minutes. I get the guitar done. I do the mixing quickly. I use plugins with presets that I like to just get it
You
done.
became a pro at it, buddy, with your
Yeah,
eyes closed.
just to get it done. I'm like, get it done, because I think getting it done is more important than sitting on it for months and months and then wondering what to do. And I will say, as much as the new modern world is, it kind of sucks in so many ways. What one thing they cannot take away from us is our ability and our desire to be prolific. So if you want to be prolific, now's your chance. And I think I think like the Bee Gees or some famous bands that we all know about would loved the fact that they could put a record out every year. And they were like, let's put out more music, more, 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 more. And now you can put out all the music you want. You can promote it how you want. You're kind of at the big buffet, and you can you can do this however you want to. You can put out a song a day if you want, and I think if you're really dedicated and you're really willing to be your own brand, you can actually use all these tools to inspire people around you. And I kind of say this because this is kind of what I am doing. In
Hmm.
my community here in the Bay Area, I have become known, because I wanted to be known as somebody who's like always working, is very prolific, puts out album after album. I got tons of artists, lots going on, and I can keep up with the pace of technology. And if anything, I now view it as like a competition. Like I want to beat the technology. So it gives me a little competitive fire. Like, okay, we need to make TikToks. Like, fine, we're going to make more TikToks than the next person. Okay, we need to make singles and EPs. Fine, we're going to make more singles and EPs than the next person. Um,
Um,
yeah.
you would say no, no. I mean, it's interesting, and I want everybody to hear this. And so uh, now, what do from everything we're talking about, that only best of the best gonna rise. Like the competition is even way harder and more brutal right now. If you're not on top, the best of the best, and you got the talent, you got the sound, you got the music, you got it all packaged together, it's very, very hard, almost impossible to take it to the next level for any independent artist, because that's where a lot of big artists make it from being an independent artist who struggled, who persevered, who went through the whole grind, and they became who they became. So now, if you're not great or best of the best, there's no chance of you to make it or to the next level.
I agree with that. Although I do know a lot of people, like I know about a lot of like music. I mean, see, it's subjective because I feel like I know about a lot of things that are kind of like okay, like that stay busy somehow. Like they've created a community of like. See, I don't want to sound judgmental. It's like there are certain genres of music that I'm not interested in. For
Mm-hmm.
example, like I don't listen to certain I don't listen to like salsa bands. I enjoy it, sure, but I don't listen to like the music you would hear at like a salsa night at the Tuesday night where everybody wants to dance. I don't ever put that stuff on. It all sort of sounds the same to me. And I know that sounds very judgmental, but I just mean like you could insert any genre of music. I don't listen to heavy metal either. I can go to the heavy metal club, and all five bands kind of sound the same to me. Which one should be the next Metallica? I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Um, I couldn't tell you which one should be the next Metallica, but what I do think is that each one of those artists that to me might sort of sound like the same as the next one,
Mm-hmm.
if they're good enough to play in clubs and have people like it, then they're good enough to be very consistent. And I mean, here in the Bay Area, I could name 10 people that I've known for 20 years who have never made it big, but they're always playing because they've made some sort of and I don't they're artists that I don't think they're like incredible, but again, that's just my taste. I'm not like I love them. I don't happen to think they're like the best songwriter or the greatest musician, but it doesn't matter like because we live in a real world. We live in an analog world. So if you're nice and your music is good enough and you're like, "Well, I'm happy with playing at the corner bar every other Tuesday." Well, the people at the corner bar are happy to have you. So go play there. You know? I mean, who cares if you're not playing at the Fillmore? Like it doesn't really. That's a different. It's almost like what's happening is there's different businesses. It's all called music, but it isn't
Yes.
actually all one big. business. It's like 30 different businesses that all have the same underlying product, which is
Yeah.
music. But if you're if all you're thinking about is fame and fortune, then you're over here in this fame and fortune segment of the business, and good luck. You better move to LA, you know, have a lot of connections, spend all day networking, and be completely aggressive about wanting to be famous, like incredibly aggressive. But if you just want to, if you're like, I want to play guitar in a reggae band, I'm happy. I like reggae, and I want to be the guy that goes twos and fours in a reggae band, which, by the way, I think is the most fun instrument to play in any band, because you just get to lay back and play those twos and fours all night long. Um, well, I think you can do that. I don't think anybody's gonna. I think you could get in a reggae band. You could have your Fender Stratocaster and your amp, and you could find a band to play in, and you could play reggae. And if you're good and you're nice and you smell good and you show up on time, I think I honestly think you could
Smell
out.
good. That's important.
It's very important. I honestly think that if you just want to play guitar in a reggae band and you're dedicated to it, I think in 10 years you could be in a band that is playing at the Fillmore. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Like, like
I get it. I get it.
okay,
You really, it's how bad you want it, and you just gotta stay at it. It's not easy, but you have to stay at it. Who said making it in any line of work is easy, especially in the creative arena?
yeah.
Jim, you work with a lot of big artists. Who are some of the artists that I know you mentioned some of them in the beginning? Who are some of the artists that you work with that really left quite an impression on you, and to this day, like certain things that uh, impacted you that you worked with some of the big
Um,
artists?
you know, probably the band Galactic, that's from New Orleans. They are an example of I learned a lot from them because they're all musicians, they're not songwriters really. They've gotten better at it over the years, but they managed to they created a business of brand of themselves as a live band, and so they could go out and make money playing shows, and they made it into like a party. So if you go to see them, it's kind of like a big fun party. You might not remember a single song if you see a whole Galactic show. Um, I mean, they have a lot of great songs, and some of them I wrote. But when I go to their shows, I see a lot of people who are just hanging out, partying, and and they they were very like smart and very slow and steady wins the race sort of mentality, and
Yeah,
they've slowly made albums and slowly kept playing. And also I noticed they all have their own lives. They're not all obsessed with fame or whatever, or with like success. They're just happy to and they're from New Orleans, and they really pay attention to the New Orleans music community, and they really like value it. So they give back to the New Orleans community, and they also get from the New Orleans community. So I see them as like integrated into where they're from, focused, business like, not desperate, not desperate. I think desperation is bad. And 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 for 25 years they've had a career as a band, and they still, I think that's really, to me, like that. And are they do they win Grammys or Oscars, or play on Beyonce records, or get all the quote unquote glory that is there to be had, that, by the way, most people don't even remember who won any Grammys, 6 months later, or even 6 days later? No, they're not really in that side of the music business. I'm sure they would like to be, and they may still be. They just have a new album coming out right now. But that's never been the goal. The goal has been the daily practice, of making music. And I think that, like, I think if you look at it like that, that you're in music for the love of it, that it's a daily practice for you, like meditation or learning a language, or exercising, and that you're going to do it your whole life, then I think you achieve the right mindset, and then you won't care about all the changes that are inevitable anyways. Technology is just going to keep changing, da 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 da
yes,
da da. And so now you have to, like I said, you have to choose from the menu. What do you want? You know, there are people who are like, I just want to make tracks on my laptop in Ableton and upload them to Spotify and never think about them ever again. And that's awesome. I love that you can do that. I really do. I also love that you can say, I'm going to make an old fashioned album. I'm going to make vinyl. I'm going to make 10. I'm going to make records. There's going to be beautiful record, and I'm going to do it the old fashioned way. Well, it's cheaper than ever. You can get 1,000 or 100 records at disc makers for $1,000 now. You know, so everybody can make a vinyl record. Which back in the
Yes.
old days, you couldn't do that. It was way too expensive to make. You couldn't
Yes.
make 100. You
Yes.
had to make 1,000,
Between
and
the
you
mastering and oh, forget it.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, lacquer, and you got to get the lacquer. Oh, you have to make
it's
it
so easy
master.
and cheap now,
Yes.
which is it means anybody can do it, which means more people can do it, but it also means there's more competition. But I don't know. I'm in a band. I'm in a small band, and I love it. I love my small band. In fact, I love it. The more small it is, I feel like it's a secret, and I enjoy it very much. Like I don't care about the world. I don't care what the world thinks. I really, truly don't care because whatever the world thinks is going to be gone by tomorrow, anyways. Nobody's
Absolutely.
thinking. Nobody thinks anything.
Jim, you've been in music business for a long time, and what advice you would have for some of the new artists that really want to make it and get themselves out there, and also some of the people who want to get into business, not being an artist, actually. So the question in two parts: artist and business.
Okay, same answer. You ready? I know the answer. It's very simple. Get a job in the music business anywhere, whether you're an artist or business. Okay, my number one piece of advice is if you can, assuming that we're talking about like say younger people who are starting out or who are trying to figure it out,
Hmm.
get a job at a club, be an intern at a record at a studio or anything at all. Intern, um, club, uh, what else is there? Like working for like Live Nation or Another Planet or Bill Graham Presents. These are all in the Bay Area. Down in LA, there's still lots of record labels. There's still lots of music business. There's network records. I've had when I got my start, I was in the Bay Area and I was a total nobody. I was nothing and I was nobody and I was living in an apartment and I was really depressed and I was bartending at a bar because that's what I had done during college. And I was desperately trying to play with my band at this club called the Paradise Lounge in San Francisco, which is now gone.
Hmm.
And I kept calling and calling, and nobody ever answered the phone. And then one day, the machine on the message said, "Hey, if you really want to play here, come down here and help us listen to all of our demos that we have. That we
Oh
can't get
wow!
through them all." And I got on the BART and I went over there, and like the message was like a joke. But I went over there and I knocked on, and then by the way, this was everybody wanted to play this club. It was like a hot place. And I knocked on the door and I met the booking person and she was like, "Are you kidding?" And I was like, "I'm not kidding. I want to play here." And she pointed to a corner, and in the corner were three huge trash bags filled to the very top with demos, like hundreds of demos. And I spent the next 3 months spending 30 hours a week organizing and cataloging all of their demos. And I cleaned up their office and I turned that place from a disorganized, chaotic mess into a very organized, functional space. And then they offered me a job. And so I went from being nowhere to being the assistant talent buyer at a club. And suddenly I was in the middle, I was nothing but music all the time. And I would go there every night and I would meet all the bands and I was seeing shows. And I think that, if you live in a small town, there's somewhere that has music, like get involved, go to the newspaper, like get involved with the music industry in any way, shape, or form and start working in it. And then you'll start to meet people who are doing the same thing. And it's inevitable. Like you can't help but meet people. I mean, I've given this advice to many, many young people, and the ones that have followed it are now working as artists. They all have gotten like something out of it. So that's my number one piece of advice. There's more, but I would say that's the first thing. Like volunteer work, in any way, shape, or form in the music
Get
industry.
involved in any way. Yes, get involved in any way. Get yourself in.
Yep.
What's next for Jim this year? Anything
So
upcoming that anybody we should look for? Any of the upcoming artists, existing artists, fans, people who want to work with you? What they should look for?
I've got I'm doing an album right now with a pretty well known rapper called Del the Funky Homo Sapien. His manager and producer Domino comes over every week, and we're working on a giant pile of tracks for Del. So that will be coming out at some point. I don't know when. I've got these three young kids I mentioned earlier. They're called Swami 3, and they're playing a bunch of through hard work and their dad sending hundreds of emails every day. They're playing some pretty cool gigs in San Francisco, like big outdoor fairs and festivals and things. Um, and I have music coming out with them soon, in March. I have an artist called Please Don't Eat Me, who is a young female singer songwriter who is 23, who's really gifted and is just a cool alternative artist. And her music is called Please Don't Eat Me, and kind of speaks for itself. I have another artist named Ava Alejandra, who's also like 20 or 21, and is just really talented and kind of vibey and ambient, and we made an EP, and she's just playing shows, and she's out there. I have a band called Cardboard People, and we are just released a new single, and we're about to go on tour. So I'm going on tour from Chicago to New York, and then down to Austin for South by Southwest. At South by Southwest, I also just released an album with there's a band called Fishbone. Do you know about Fishbone?
Yes, I heard of them. Yes.
So Angelo Moore is the singer of Fishbone, and I've been making music with Angelo for a while, and we just released a full-length album on the 14th, on Valentine's Day, and
Amazing.
we're playing some shows at South by. We're playing like 7 shows at South by Southwest.
Talk about being resilient and being busy and not giving up on the music business.
Yeah.
Definitely, you're an example, my friend. Great positive example, Jim.
Well,
Yes.
you gotta be like, these days, because of the way the world has gone. You gotta be a totally open receptor. You gotta be
Absolutely.
like I
Yes.
say to people, yes is the most powerful word. Like, say yes to everything. Like, say yes to everything until there's no more time in the day. Because if
Well,
we're passionate, then why wouldn't the answer be yes?
well,
Like
that's why you're on Soundbreaker, my friend. People who are breaking the sound, breaking all these barriers and all these nays and no's and negativity out there.
none of that. I'm
Yes.
all
Yes.
about optimism and say yes, and forget the results. Don't worry about the data. Just we're not computers. We're humans.
Just do it. Just do it. Well,
Each other.
listen, absolutely. Jim, I want to thank you first for joining us today on Soundbreaker. And this concludes today's episode. Definitely enjoyed talking to you. So much positivity and so much information. Yes, absolutely. For our audience out there, please make sure to follow us on social and stay tuned for our next episode. Jim, thank you again, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Bob. So nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Likewise. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.